received a call of a shooting with multiple individuals shot right here in the parking lot. The very same officer heard the call, doubled right back, was only a short distance away, was the first to arrive on the scene, located 5 what we believe are juvenile males who are all shot, suffering from various levels of gunshot injuries in this very parking lot behind me. The officer began to render medical attention and life-saving measures to multiple victims, called for assistance. School police were very quick to arrive on the scene, also began to render life-saving measures and first aid to the 5 victims. We know that EMS came and transported all victims to local hospitals, 2 of whom went to shock trauma. The other 3 went to Sinai. What we know right now is that all 5 are believed to be juvenile males. We believe that there are students at Edmondson Westside High School, which is right across the street, and were in this area on their lunch break. What we have learned right now is that one of the juveniles at shock trauma who had the most serious injuries has succumbed to his injury. And so our thoughts and prayers are certainly with that family. We are now looking for video. We're looking for witnesses. We are looking for anything that would tell us how this happened, why this happened, and who's responsible for it. What we believe right now is that they were congregating in front of this mall, right in front of the Ritas and the Popeyes. What we believe is that 2 shooters began to open fire at the other individuals who are all together in front of the mall. What we believe right now is that those 2 shooters, after discharging multiple rounds, fled behind the building and then made good of their escape. We do not have a description as of yet, and so what we need right now is anyone who would have heard something or seen something to call us right away, or you can do it anonymously by calling Metro Crime Stoppers at 1-866-7-LOCK-UP. Again, we have a very tragic incident. 5 people shot, 1 who has now lost his life over foolishness and nonsense, and this did not have to happen. We talk about the prevalence of guns, we're talking about the willingness to use them, and now we're again talking about individuals who are youthful and young being involved in either being a victim of the shooting or pulling that trigger. And we talk about now the culture of violence, why people think they need to have a gun and why people think they need to pull the trigger to solve their conflict. And we will keep talking about it, and we will continue to do everything that we can to cure this culture of violence so that we can make sure people solve their problems in a responsible way. But the most important thing that we can do right now is get information from anyone who knows something, who has heard something, or who saw something as we comb this area for all the evidence that we need to find these individuals and bring them to justice. At this time, I will turn it over to our mayor.
Thank you, and I would say good afternoon, but there's nothing good about an afternoon where another young life in our city is lost over nothing, over nonsense, over stupidity. And what we should be asking right now is that everyone pray for that family, for all the victims' family, for the other young men that are fighting for their lives, for their school community, but then start to ask the questions, why? Why again are we here? Because when you talk about murder, oftentimes folks try to simplify, and it can't be. Every single solitary detail matters. The why, the how, where the gun came from. And we probably know this gun came from some state not named Maryland, how it got into the hands of young people, why young men in Baltimore and in this country feel like they have to have a gun to make them feel strong, Mr. Commissioner. The culture of violence is because, let's be honest, that's the culture of our country. We teach young men in this country. The first toy that they get is a G.I. Joe. It says they got a big gun that makes them strong. And now we're here talking again about how these guns are flowing into our city, flowing into our communities, flowing into the hands of young people who we know aren't mature enough to handle them because their brains are even finished forming. This is what we're talking about. People ask why. Why the councilman? Why myself? We've been fighting for years to get this shopping center in the hands of a better owner. This is why. Because this is the kind of thing that happens when you have derelict ownership that disinvests, businesses that are not connected or don't really care about the community. This Popeyes has been cited before for selling to minors and students during the daytime. This is something that shouldn't happen because those young people wouldn't be here if they knew they couldn't buy something from this place. Every single detail matters. We're going to try to find out what happened, who hold them accountable. Who got the gun? Who gave them the gun? Who straw purchased? Who brought it? Who trafficked it into Baltimore? And go after all of them, because everybody is guilty. Anybody that had anything to do with that gun, that bullet, that shooting, all of them are guilty in taking the lives of a young person and maybe others in our city. That's what we should be thinking about, and how this continues to happen each and every day with us taking thousands and thousands of guns off the streets. Even more and more show up. And why and how and who's responsible in a city that has no gun stores, that over 60% of the weapons come from other states, how they're getting in, who's driving that, because those people have to be brought to justice too, just like the people that pulled the trigger today, and we're going to go after both of them. Councilman? Sorry.
My thoughts are with the family of all of the young people. I mean, there's no acceptable amount of violence in our city, but it hurts when it's kids. As a father, it hits different. But you know, knowing that the staff, the family had relationships or have relationships with these young people who are just coming up here on their lunch break, it's heartbreaking. And the one thing I know is that somebody saw something. I just hope that somebody will step up and show video, show something, tell who did it. We know, somebody knows. And the families are hurting, the community is hurting, I'm hurting. I know the mayor and the commissioner, I mean, it has to stop. It has to stop. Where is enough? When is it enough? And, you know, the mayor hit on something that was important. The businesses have to be partners. We have had community meetings on this issue as recent as a few months ago. Over and over again, we've had conversations with the store owners here. You go in any of these businesses, you'll see that there are signs in the window saying, "Don't serve young people." Those signs are put up by my office, put up by officers from the Southwest District, put up by the school. We've had staff come and go door to door with the businesses, and they just refuse to stop. Hopefully this will be enough to stop serving the young people. Because when I don't know. If anybody knows anything, please call 911, please call Metro Crime Stoppers, call my office. Whatever it takes to get justice for these young people, we have to do it. And there has to be more conversations. We'll be working with the school to make sure that, you know, because this is a tragedy, that this is the kind of thing that reverberates beyond just the victims themselves. But when you have staff at the school, when you have families, you have friends, I mean, this is a heartbreaking time for the Edmondson Village community, for the 8th District. And we'll be working diligently to bring justice and partner with the mayor's office, partners with the police department, but we need the community to partner with us and the business community to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mayor. As you can see, this is still a very fluid and active investigation. It's a very active crime scene. We're still processing. We're still looking for evidence, so we're very limited in the information we are able to give you about the specifics. But at this time, we'll take a few questions.
Channel 2. So 2 questions for you, Commissioner. The first one, the second victim who was taking a shock trauma, is he considered critical?
We believe from the reports we're getting from the 2 hospitals that 1 individual was critical. The other 4 had non-life-threatening, although 2 went to shock trauma. The reports is that only 1 was critical at the time of that report.
Excellent. And then it seems that there are a lot of markers over there. I know you said it was potentially 2 shooters. Do we know any type of, like, what type of weapon they used? Because it seems like, I mean, I'm not an expert, but maybe machine-type gun. It's a lot of bullets.
Well, the markers are not all for bullets. The markers are for other types of evidence that we found on the ground. Right now, we know that it's at least 1. It could be more than 1 firearm used.
Okay. David?
And Brittany, when we find out, we will tell you what kind of gun. If we find the gun, we'll tell you where it came from. We'll tell you all of the information.
I think, Commissioner, you mentioned earlier that this was a hot spot and officers routinely patrol here. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what has been going on around here?
Well, as you heard me, the councilman, the mayor talk about, we have had issues here in this mall for a long time. The officer was given guidance and instructions to patrol and to check on it. And the officer was doing just that. And so was in the parking lot within just a few minutes, and after driving out to go do her job and check on another spot, we got the call of a shooting. So it was within minutes after driving out the lot. She was only a couple of blocks away, doubled back, and was the first to arrive on the scene.
And I'll just jump in there, Dave, just really quickly. Listen, this is the Edmondson Village Shopping Center, right? So as long as I've been alive, the Edmondson Village Shopping Center has been a hot spot. The councilman actually, before he ran for office specifically around this shopping center, I just thought about that, because this community where he lives has for years wanted to have better here. This is why one of the first things I did as mayor is work with the councilman, try to get this shopping center into a different hand, right? Because ownership matters. We've seen shopping centers around the city change hands, and when they change hands mysteriously, the issues go away. Because when you have ownership that cares and invests, and that's what you're talking about. This is why BPD is here. It used to be at the gas station, now it's down here. They're where they're supposed to be, but they can't be here 24/7, 365. It's just impossible for them to be. So when people ask why, well, I know the Banner ran a story last week about my office investing $8 million into this shopping center to have it redeveloped. This is why, because this community deserves better than this. It deserves better than a shopping center that clearly no one seems to has cared about from an investing standpoint, that allows this kind of stuff to fester. Businesses who don't care, despite the councilman's efforts, despite BPD's efforts, despite my efforts, and now we're talking about young people being shot.
Can you follow up?
Follow up really quick.
Okay, as far as Edmondson High School is concerned, can you tell us how that school has been impacted? I mean, is it in a lockdown, or is that too extreme? What's going on with the high school right now?
It is not in a lockdown, and we do not believe that the shooting is affiliated with any activities of the school. The individuals were in front of the mall, and for whatever reason they were here. The school is not in lockdown, but as you would imagine, now we have to deal with the trauma of the other students, of the friends, of the faculty, of having their students and their classmates shot, one of whom has now succumbed to his injuries. So now we have to do trauma relief. We have to give care to the school and the faculty. Thank you to the school police, who were quick to arrive at the request of the first responding officer, who helped in so many ways. And so we appreciate that partnership. But now we have to talk about the trauma that everyone in the school is facing and what impact that will have on them.
And Dave, and when you think about that, we've been through that before. Our Principal Perry is a great principal. He's leading the school and leading those young men and women in a great way. But they're going to be dealing with the trauma, and much like if you've never had to talk to young people about losing a classmate, it is one of the most heartbreaking, hardest things to do, to see them go through that, to see teachers and staff go through that. Someone that was sitting next to you one day and gone the next. It's a heartbreaking thing to do. I went through it, losing classmates as a child. I can only imagine what they're going to be thinking and feeling, and we're just going to be there to support them.
The banner runner. Can you all confirm if the gunmen shot the victims while they were in the store or outside of the store?
It appears that this entire incident was outside in the parking lot.
Right, WJZ?
You mentioned trying to take measures so that the students don't come over to the shops during their lunch break. What can you all do to ensure that something like this doesn't happen or continues to happen?
Well, we can be as visible as we possibly can. We can work with the store owners and the managers of the store to ensure they're abiding by what we think needs to happen, by making sure that the students at the school who are not supposed to be over here, they're not serving them, to disincentivize them from coming over here. And then we have to work with the school on communication and how we do that. But ultimately, it's about changing the culture of why people think they got to carry a gun and why they think they need to pull that trigger and how they resolve their conflict. That is a big, big lift, but that is something we've been working on all along.
We're going to end with the Baltimore Sun.
Commissioner, I think this makes 8 people shot today alone. Every time we're at one of these, we hear something's going to change. People need to quit carrying guns. I mean, when is it going to change?
Well,
what is it going to take?
I think it's gonna change in multiple ways, right? We know that we'll continue to make those record number of gun arrests that we have and putting them in forth. We know yesterday we onboarded a new state's attorney. If we start to hold people accountable there, when we continue to make the long-term investments into communities that have been disincentivized and disinvested in, but we also have to have a change in people, right? That's the reality. At the end of the day, we have to do everything from government that we can do, and we will do that. We will continue to invest historic numbers into rec and parks, into schools, into employment development, into creating those opportunities, into diversion programs. Every single thing that we have to do, we're going to also do the same thing on law enforcement. When you're carrying guns and we catch you, you will go to jail. We will hand you over to other parts of the system. but also people, us, everybody in the city of Baltimore has to do a self-check. Because as I said last week, people are dying over stupid stuff. People are dying because someone left me and now they have a new boyfriend and I seen a picture of them on Instagram. No one should die over that. We should be able to resolve our conflict in a different way. We shouldn't be so weak that when we have a basic dispute, we're going to take somebody's life or pull out a gun because we feel disrespected. Your manhood shouldn't be that fragile. And if you need help on that, we're here to help with behavioral health and things. Talk to people. Going to talk to someone when you're going through something doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. Doing things like we saw today and like we see throughout the city consistently, mainly by men and young men, that's what makes you weak. That's what makes you a word that I won't say that we use in Baltimore consistently, because we know we can be better than that. We have to want better for ourselves as a community. We have to make sure that we are part of saving ourselves as well, because especially for young black men and folks in my generation and in the councilman generation and below, we know there's so many people in this world, especially over the last few years, we've seen what they think about young black men, that they think that this is all that we know. We know much greater than that. We know that we're much more than that. We cannot continue to give those simple-minded, simple racist people ammo by doing this to ourselves.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you all.
I'll be staying behind for any follow-up questions, but just give me a second.